I saw them before they noticed me. Rachel, my wife, was sitting in the corner of the coffee shop with another man. His hand brushed hers on the table, lingering just a second too long. Her laugh rang out, light and carefree, like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't left our bed empty this morning or kissed me goodbye an hour ago. My blood ran cold. They weren't just talking. They were leaning in, sharing secrets, their body language screaming intimacy. My fists clenched at my sides as I processed what I was seeing. Betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. And then Rachel looked up. Her eyes met mine, wide with shock. For a moment, she froze, her smile vanishing instantly. Panic flickered across her face as she realized I'd seen everything. The man followed her gaze, turning slightly to see me standing there. He stiffened, guilt written all over his expression. I didn't say a word. Instead, I grabbed a napkin from the counter and scribbled 3 sharp words. "Don't come home." Folding the note, I dropped it onto their table as I walked past. Neither of them said a word, but I felt their stares burning into my back as I pushed open the door and stepped outside. The cold air hit me hard, grounding me for a split second. My mind raced. Who was he? How long had this been going on? And now, what came next? One thing was certain. My life would never be the same again. The note sat on the table between them, stark and accusing. 3 simple words, "Don't come home." But they carried the weight of everything I'd felt in that moment. Anger, betrayal, finality. As I stepped out of the coffee shop, my heart pounded like a drum. Each beat echoed in my ears, drowning out the chatter of passers-by and the hum of traffic. My hands trembled as I shoved them into my coat pockets, trying to steady myself. What had I just done? Inside, I could picture Rachel picking up the note, her fingers trembling as she read it. Would she cry, panic, or would she shrug it off, pretending it didn't matter? The thought made me sick. I walked aimlessly down the street, replaying the scene over and over in my mind. Her laugh, his touch, the way they looked at each other, like I didn't exist, like our marriage was nothing more than a distant memory to her. Why hadn't I said something, confronted them right then and there? Maybe because I wanted her to feel what I felt. Blindsided, humiliated, betrayed. Dropping the note was colder, sharper. It gave her time to think about what she'd done before facing me. By the time I reached the park a few blocks away, my legs burned from walking too fast, but my mind wouldn't slow down. Questions swirled relentlessly. Who was he? A coworker? A friend? Someone she'd been seeing behind my back for months or longer? And then there was the bigger question. How did we get here? We used to be happy, or at least I thought we were. We'd built a life together, shared dreams, promised forever. But somewhere along the way something broke. I just hadn't realized how irreparably until now. Sitting on a bench overlooking the pond, I pulled out my phone. No missed calls. No texts. Rachel hadn't tried to reach me yet. Either she was still processing or she didn't care enough to chase after me. The thought stung, but it also hardened my resolve. This wasn't just about catching her with another man. It was about all the lies, all the secrets she'd kept hidden while I trusted her completely. I stared at the ripples in the water, imagining tossing a stone into the calm surface. That's what this moment felt like. Dropping a bomb into the stillness of my life and watching everything shatter. But even amidst the chaos, one thing was clear. I couldn't go back. Not to her. Not to us. Whatever came next, I'd face it alone. The house was eerily quiet when I got back. I'd spent hours wandering the streets, avoiding the inevitable confrontation that waited for me here. But now, standing in the doorway, I could feel the tension hanging thick in the air. The faint scent of her perfume lingered, a cruel reminder of everything I wanted to forget. And then I heard her soft footsteps approaching from the hallway. Rachel appeared, her face pale and drawn. She looked smaller somehow, like the weight of what she'd done had already started crushing her. Her eyes darted toward me, searching for something. Forgiveness? Understanding? Or maybe just an escape? "You came home," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "Not because I want to be here." I shot back, my tone sharp enough to cut glass. Explain yourself. She flinched but didn't respond right away. Instead, she wrapped her arms around herself, as if trying to hold herself together. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I don't know where to start, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. How about with who he is? I demanded, stepping closer. Or how long this has been going on? Was it before we even got married? Did you ever love me at all? No, she cried, shaking her head frantically. It's not like that. It wasn't planned. It just happened. Bullshit, I snapped, my anger boiling over. Things like that don't just happen. You made choices, Rachel. Choices that destroyed us. Her eyes filled with tears, spilling down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I swear. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said coldly. Do you have any idea how it felt to see you with him? To realize everything between us was a lie. It wasn't all a lie, she insisted, her voice rising slightly. We had good times, real ones, but lately things changed. You were always working late, always distracted. I felt so alone. So you decided to screw someone else. I interrupted, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Great solution, Rachel. Real mature. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she pleaded, tears streaming freely now. At first, it was just talking, harmless conversations. Then one thing led to another, and I couldn't stop it. I tried, I really did. But by then, it was too late. Too late, I repeated, incredulous. You think that makes it okay? That excuses cheating on your husband. She didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. I turned away, pacing the room as frustration bubbled inside me. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the lies, the deceit, the betrayal of trust. Every word out of her mouth felt like another dagger twisting in my chest. Finally, I stopped and faced her, my jaw tight. Pack your things. You're leaving tonight. What? She gasped, her eyes widening in shock. No, you can't mean that. Please, give me another chance. There are no second chances for this, I said firmly. You made your choice when you picked him over me. Now live with it. For a moment, she stood frozen, staring at me like she couldn't believe what was happening. Then slowly she nodded, defeated. As she disappeared into the bedroom to gather her belongings, I sank onto the couch, exhaustion washing over me. The battle was won, but the war, the emotional scars, would take much longer to heal. The days that followed felt like walking through a fog, blurry, heavy, and suffocating. Rachel left that night, taking only a suitcase and the shattered remains of our marriage with her. The house was eerily quiet without her, every creak of the floorboards reminding me of what I'd lost. At first, anger fueled me. I replayed the confrontation in my mind over and over, dissecting every word she said, or didn't say. Her excuses haunted me. I felt so alone. One thing led to another. Was it really loneliness that drove her into someone else's arms? Or had she simply stopped caring about us long before today? But as the anger began to fade, sadness crept in. It hit hardest at night when the silence pressed down on me, unrelenting. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything had fallen apart so quickly. Had I missed the signs? Ignored red flags because I didn't want to face the truth? Friends reached out after hearing about the split. Some offered sympathy. Others couldn't resist asking for details. Jake, my best friend since college, showed up one evening with pizza and beer. He didn't push me to talk, but his presence alone helped. You okay, man? He asked eventually, leaning back on the couch. No, I admitted, surprising even myself with how honest I sounded. I don't think I will be for a while. He nodded, sipping his beer thoughtfully. It sucks, but you'll get through this. Trust me. You're better off without someone who doesn't value you. His words stuck with me. Maybe he was right. Maybe staying would have meant sacrificing pieces of myself I couldn't afford to lose. Still, moving forward wasn't easy. Simple tasks like grocery shopping or paying bills felt monumental. Everything reminded me of her. The coffee maker we bought together, the blanket she loved to curl up in, the playlist she used to hum along to while cooking dinner. To cope, I threw myself into work, burying my pain under endless meetings and deadlines. My boss noticed the change, pulling me aside one afternoon. "You've been killing it lately," he said. "But don't burn yourself out. Take some time if you need it." I appreciated the concern, but taking time off felt impossible. Staying busy kept the loneliness at bay, at least during the day. Then there were the moments when grief overwhelmed me completely, like finding an old photo album tucked away in the closet. Flipping through pictures of happier times, the vacations, the holidays, the lazy Sunday mornings, I couldn't help but wonder how we'd gone from that to this. One particularly rough night, I called my mom. She listened patiently as I poured out my heart, sharing things I hadn't told anyone else. When I finished, she spoke softly. "Sometimes people make choices we can't understand," she said. "But their actions don't define your worth. You're still the same amazing person you've always been. Don't let this break you." Her words brought tears to my eyes. Not out of sadness, but relief. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to grieve fully, to cry until there were no tears left. And when the storm passed, I realized something important. I wasn't just mourning the end of my marriage. I was mourning the loss of trust, security, and the future I'd imagined for us. But amidst the pain, clarity emerged. This wasn't just the end of a relationship. It was the beginning of something new. A chance to rediscover who I was outside of being a husband. To rebuild my life on my own terms. And slowly, step by step, I started doing just that. Weeks turned into months, and life began to settle into a new rhythm. The sharp edges of pain dulled slightly, though they never fully disappeared. I started noticing small changes, things that reminded me I was healing, even if it didn't always feel like it. I took up running again, something I hadn't done since before the marriage. At first, it was just a way to clear my head, to escape the weight of everything for a few miles. But soon, it became more than that. Crossing finish lines in local 5K races gave me a sense of accomplishment I hadn't felt in years. Each step forward felt symbolic, proof that I could keep moving no matter how hard things got. Work also shifted gears. With renewed focus, I pitched an idea for a project I'd been hesitant to propose. A community outreach initiative aimed at mentoring young professionals. To my surprise, it was approved almost immediately. Leading the program reignited a passion I thought I'd lost, reminding me of why I'd chosen my career in the first place. Socially, I leaned on friends more than ever before. Jake dragged me to trivia nights and weekend hikes, insisting I get out of your own head. Evenings spent laughing over bad jokes or debating random facts helped fill the void left by Rachel's absence. Slowly, I stopped feeling like I needed to be alone all the time. One day, while sorting through old boxes in the garage, I stumbled upon a guitar I hadn't touched in years. On a whim, I tuned it and played a few chords. Music had always been a part of me, but somewhere along the way, I'd let it slip away. That night, I signed up for lessons, not because I wanted to become a musician, but because it felt good to try something new. Then came the unexpected twist. The other man, the one Rachel had been seeing, reached out. It started with a voicemail. "Hey, this is Daniel," he said awkwardly. "We met briefly at the coffee shop. Look, I know this is weird, but I need to say something. What happened between us, it wasn't fair to either of you. I regret it deeply, and I'm sorry." At first, I deleted the message without responding, but his apology lingered in my mind. A week later, he sent an email saying much of the same thing. This time, curiosity got the better of me. We met for coffee, not at the same shop where everything unraveled, but somewhere neutral. He looked nervous, fidgeting with his cup as he spoke. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said, "but I wanted you to know. I ended things with her after that day. Seeing what it did to you, it made me realize how selfish I'd been." His words caught me off guard. Part of me wanted to lash out, to blame him for everything. But another part recognized the sincerity in his voice. "You hurt people I cared about," I told him evenly, "including yourself. Just Don't make the same mistake again." He nodded, looking genuinely remorseful. As I walked away, I realized something important. Holding on to anger wouldn't change the past. Letting go, not for them, but for me, was the only way to truly move forward. By the end of the year, I found myself smiling more often. Not because I'd forgotten what happened, but because I'd learned to carry it differently. The betrayal still stung, but it no longer defined me. Life wasn't perfect, it probably never would be, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, that felt enough.